Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we unpack the hidden stories in corporate filings, and trust me, this one has a few twists and turns in its agreement. So get ready because today we're diving into Plum Acquisition Corp, FIR's latest filing, and it looks like they're shaking things up with Tactical Resources Corp. This isn't just a simple update, it's a serious amendment to a big deal, the business combination agreement. Alright, let's get right into it. The main event here is an amendment to a business combination agreement. Think of a business combination agreement as the big contract that lays out how two companies plan to merge or join forces. This isn't the first amendment though, this is number 3, which tells us things are still being ironed out and for a deal that was originally signed back in August of 2024. So what's changed in this latest amendment? Well, there are a few key points. First, they're acknowledging that Tactical Resources Corp might do a reverse stock split. Now, a reverse stock split is a bit like consolidating shares. If you have 10 shares worth $1 each and the company does a 10-for-1 reverse split, you'll end up with one share worth $10. It's often done to make the stock price look higher, perhaps to meet certain listing requirements. That's right, they pushed the deadline for this deal. Originally, they had until August 2025 to get this combination done, but now they've got a whole extra year until July 2026. This suggests that getting all the approvals or sorting out the details is taking longer than expected. Here's a really interesting part, a lockup on shares. What this means is that a large chunk of the shares that will be given to the shareholders of Tactical Resources Corp when the deal is finalized will be locked up. They can't sell them for 6 months after the deal closes. This is common in these types of exchange rules. Prevent a flood of shares hitting the market right away, which could drive the price down. The exact percentage, anywhere from 80% to 85%, will be decided by the company's board, but it needs to make sure the combined company can meet stock exchange rules. And it gets even more specific for what they call the key company security holders. These are the really big players, the major shareholders. For them, it's not 80-85%, it's potentially 100% of their shares that will be locked up for 6 months. This shows a strong commitment from these key shareholders to stick with the company post-merger, which is usually a good sign. Now, like many of these filings, there's a section about who might be seen as trying to influence shareholders, specifically regarding votes or approvals for this business combination. It mentions that Plum, Pubco, and Tactical, along with their top executives, might be involved in trying to get shareholder support. They point to other filings for details about these key people. This is a common legal disclaimer in these reports. It's basically saying that this document itself isn't trying to get you to buy or sell any stocks, nor is it a formal offer to do so. They're carefully saying this is just reporting on what's happening with the agreement. And of course, we have the forward-looking statements section. This is where companies talk about what they hope will happen in the future, but they use cautious language like expect, anticipate, or potential. They're basically saying this is what we think might happen, but nothing is guaranteed. This part really lays out the risks. They're talking about things like changes in market conditions, whether they can actually get the deal approved by shareholders and regulators, and if the deal might not happen at all. They also mention risks related to Tactical's business itself, like supply shortages, delays in operations, and how many shareholders might want their money back before the deal closes. It's a long list indicating a lot of potential bumps in the road. They also add that this list of risks isn't even complete. New problems could pop up. This is standard practice to cover themselves legally, but it does underscore that there's significant uncertainties surrounding this combination. Finally, we get to the exhibits, which are essentially the actual documents that support what they're talking about here. They list the amendment itself and the form of that lockup agreement for the key shareholders. Now, looking at this filing, what's the big picture story here? Plum Acquisition Corp. 3 is working on a business combination with Tactical Resources Corp, and they've just signed a 3rd amendment to their agreement. This amendment extends the deadline for the deal to July 2026. And critically, it puts a lockup on a significant portion of shares for key shareholders for 6 months after the merger. This indicates that the parties are still working through complex details and are keen to ensure stability post-merger. The extension to 2026 suggests challenges or a longer than expected timeline for bringing this deal to completion, possibly related to regulatory approvals or the internal restructuring of Tactical Resources, like the potential reverse stock split. The heavy lockup on shares for major shareholders is a strong signal of their commitment and belief in the future of the completion, possibly related to regulatory approvals or the internal restructuring of tactical resources like the potential reverse stock split. The heavy lockup on shares for major shareholders is a strong signal. However, the sheer number of potential risks listed and the fact that the list is not exhaustive means there's considerable uncertainty. Investors need to be aware that this deal could still fall through or at the very least face further delays and complications. The success of this combination will likely depend on how well Plum and Tactical can navigate regulatory hurdles, manage shareholder expectations, and integrate their operations smoothly, all while dealing with potential market volatility. So what's my take? Plum Acquisition Corp 3 is clearly going through a significant strategic move. The extended timeline isn't ideal. It often means there are obstacles, but the lockup agreements, especially for key shareholders, show confidence from the inside. The real test will be whether they can execute this complex combination within the new timeframe, and more importantly, whether Tactical Resources Corp can deliver on its promises once combined. It's a high-stakes game of negotiation and execution, and we'll be watching to see if they pull it off. Alright, that's our breakdown of Plum Acquisition Corp. 3's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.